You're listening to
I Don't Do Sci-Fi.
Episode 3, Imagination, Our Only Limit.
Hello and welcome to I Don't Do Sci-Fi. I'm Rebecca Ray and with me are John Isles.
Hello.
And Dani Ray.
Hi.
Last time we showed Dani two future sports films, Death Race 2000 and Rollerball.
Yeah.
While Dani enjoyed Death Race, she sadly did not like Rollerball, as you can just tell. This episode we're going to focus on the 1970s cult BBC sci-fi series Blake 7.
Da, 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 da.
So before we get into discussing our chosen sci-fi, I want to introduce our guest for this episode, Will Hadcroft, who is an author of 4 novels, an autobiography and a Doctor Who audio drama. So how are you doing, Will?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's nice to have you. You did Tripodcast with us last year.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. Being in it and listening to it.
You get to interact in person with Dani, whereas before you were just talking to me for an interview.
I know.
Inserting.
Do you know this is a bit funny for me, this one, because having not seen her for ages since we did the initial recording on Tripodcast, I feel like these two guys are a bit famous. You know, I feel like I'm meeting people who you know, like you see someone on the telly and then you meet them. It's that kind of feeling. Just thinking, it's those two voices again. Yeah, it's lovely to be back and in person.
It's lovely to have you on, Will, and I think 2 of us have listened to your recently released audio drama for Doctor Who, The Resurrection Plan, haven't we, John?
Yes, yep, we've had it. I enjoyed it well.
Thank you very much. I very much enjoy writing that.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. It reminded me a bit of Oxygen, the Capaldi episode, and it also gave me a bit of a Bioshock Infinite vibe. It's this whole treating people as expendable units and people just being misused, and it's all about the industry and the factory owner and people not having rights and things like that. It's quite grim.
The idea behind it was being worked to death, literally.
Yeah.
Was that based on personal experience, Will?
Well, I did work for the Royal Bank of Scotland for 14 years. So being worked to death, being resurrected back to life, and then being worked to death again and over and over and over until life is not precious. The original title for the story was The Sanctity of Death. And I was asked by my editor and producer to change it. But I do prefer the original title because I think it describes what's going on, that there is no sanctity to life.
And can I just say, as somebody who obviously isn't a Doctor Who, well, I like Doctor Who a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily have gone out and listened to that, but it does actually sound really interesting.
It's a Troughton story. Fraser Hines, who plays Jamie, is narrating the book, and he does a very good impression of Troughton.
He does.
I'm sure will sell you a copy later, Dani.
It's Jamie.
Rates, though, yeah.
It's one of your favourite TARDIS teams, Jamie and Zoe with Troughton, because I know you like them.
Yes, I do like Troughton.
So let's talk about the sci-fi we're introducing Dani to today. It is the BBC One series Blake 7. Blake 7 was a BBC television show that began in 1978 and ran for 4 series until 1981. Roj Blake, played by Gareth Thomas, is a revolutionary determined to topple the corrupt and totalitarian Terran Federation, a brutal and Orwellian far-future empire which has held the galaxy in chains for centuries. Through exceptional good fortune, Blake has found himself in command of a vast and mysterious alien battlecruiser christened the Liberator, effortlessly able to outrun and outgun anything the Federation can throw against it. The perfect tool for a one-man crusade. However, Blake's ragtag, discordant crew of criminals and terrorists seldom share his idealism. They are more keen to use the ship merely as a means to escape capture or for self-enrichment, rather than use it as a devastating weapon to stab at the Federation's heart. Regardless, Blake's heroic blows for freedom aboard the Liberator become the stuff of legend on hundreds of enslaved worlds, sparking waves of rebellion. Supreme Commander Servalan, played by Jacqueline Pearce, becomes the glamorous but megalomaniac arch-nemesis of the Liberator crew. Her Federation armies become single-minded in their determination to destroy Blake and restore absolute control over the galaxy. Blake 7 was pitched as a kind of Dirty Dozen in space by its creator, Terry Nation, a stalwart TV writer long famous for being the creator of the Daleks in Doctor Who. Producing the series was David Maloney, well known for his work as a director on Doctor Who. The script editor was Chris Boucher, another Doctor Who veteran. Dudley Simpson, who composed the music for Blake 7, had, you guessed it, been the principal composer for Doctor Who. In fact, Blake 7 is so full of behind-the-scenes links to Doctor Who that the two shows were long thought of by fans as being siblings. The whole look, sound and feel of Blake 7 is instantly familiar to anyone who has seen a 1970s episode of Doctor Who. Unfortunately, Blake 7 was forever cursed with a budget that was low even by Doctor Who standards. It's forced the series to cope with chronically poor production values throughout its run. But for those able to see past the show's make-do approach to sets and costumes, Blake 7 has remained highly regarded by critics. It frequently earned top 10 positions in lists of best British sci-fi series, and reviewers both past and present praise its engaging adventure story format, cast of great characters and witty dialogue. Unlike its long-running sibling, however, Blake 7 has increasingly struggled to retain a place in the public consciousness. Despite having been a major TV hit, able to draw in huge audiences, sadly it is now rare to encounter those under 40 who are aware of the show's existence. Blake 7 is still fondly remembered enough, however, to have maintained a dedicated fan base, and tie-in merchandise continues to be produced.
So with the introductions done, we're going to travel back in time a few days and listen to some moments from Dani and Rebecca watching Blake 7. Let's hear how it went.
So, hello everyone, I'm with Dan and I'm about to show her Blake 7.
Yay.
Are you looking forward to this, Dan? Is that sarcasm? Yes. Okay, have you heard of Blake 7?
Only when you guys say Blake 7, no idea what it's about. I'm assuming it's another Star Trek. Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Literally, that's it. I've got nothing other than that.
Ooh.
This shows how much I don't listen to you guys when you start going off on stuff like this.
Yes.
And I know instantly I just go, turn off.
Wow. Yeah, because we do talk about Blake 7 quite a bit.
You'd expect me to know something about it. Nothing.
Interesting. So it's a TV series. It's made by the BBC.
Oh, so now I'm just thinking about Red Dwarf-esque.
Made in the 70s. Yeah,
It's going to be shit then because it's in the 70s.
Oh, Dan. Dan's prejudiced against the 70s because of our parents.
No, I'm prejudiced against the 70s because everything you've shown me from the 70s is shit.
Rocky Horror wasn't shit.
Have you shown me Rocky Horror for this?
No.
Then that does not count.
Death Race. That one's shit.
The end was shit though.
Okay, so we will start watching. As the episode gets underway, Dani grows suspicious of Dev Tarrant, the limping figure following Blake out into the wilderness.
Dev Tarrant's head Dev. You'll remember Roj Blake.
Yeah, because I thought he was going to be like following them.
Like a bad guy.
Not that he was like making sure that they hadn't been followed.
After that,
Maybe he's a good guy. But here comes trouble. Federation guards prepare to assault the rebels, but Dani is less than impressed by Blake's unconvincing hiding skills.
Unit 3, move in.
What?
So obviously there.
Yeah. The merciless slaughter of unarmed civilians begins, and Dani reacts with giggling? What? Sorry, what?
That was so bad. The whole like, no, not me. I'm just stand there. Oh. You could have been done better.
And it turns out Dev Tarrant did sell the rebels out after all.
You heard?
I heard.
Survived.
Hmm.
See, it
I'll
wasn't
be
bad.
satisfied when the risk is eliminated.
Well, I don't know what John's been leaking to Dani, but for some reason she's been watching out for the appearance of the Terrazza sofas by Swiss interior designer Ubald Klug.
It was based on a very well organised reception.
This is the sofa that John was mentioning that was in...
In the goodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been in Doctor Who.
Fucking awful sofa. So ugly.
Blake claims he was arrested after he went outside.
They're still available to buy if you have a spare £15,000. But anyway, the first episode concludes and Dani spends the closing credits writing studious notes. Writing notes. Are you writing?
No, I'm not. No.
I want to know what you wrote. Let me see.
I don't want to see.
Why?
He's got nothing to do with you. We do the episode.
Oh. Notes she's still making into episode 2 and declines to share. Whoa! You're writing a lot suddenly. What are you writing? I need to know. Show me.
No.
Why? The camera cuts to Avon for the first time. Dani thinks he looks like someone else.
Can I just say it looks a bit like Frank Skinner?
Who does?
The guy who you just cuts to.
Oh, the guy holding the pad?
Yeah, I know it's not,
Yeah, he looks like
but
Frank
it
Skinner.
looks.
Ah.
That's more like Mel.
You enjoy giving us a hard time.
Does Paul Darrow really look like Frank Skinner? Never mind. Dani shows appreciation for Villa's sense of humour.
When it comes to computers, he's the number 2 man in all the federated worlds.
Who's number one?
The guy who caught him. You've got nothing to be ashamed of. Do you know?
That's good, that. That's a good line.
The guy who caught him.
If it was so good, he wouldn't get caught, would I?
She also takes an early shine to Gan too.
Look, we only need the hand. If you want to stay attached to it, do as you're told.
Like him.
The decision to use a screwdriver like prop for the Earthship's London communicators begin to wind Dani up.
Why is it?
Whilst we hold the computer.
In sci-fi, whenever it's got a communication thing, it always has to look weird. It can't just be something that is obvious.
No.
Until the ship is helpless, it will remain.
Her agitation only increases when the actors forget how they previously used the prop.
Stand by to run out of transfer tube.
Why is it all of a sudden the mouthpiece where everyone was talking into is now the earpiece?
Yeah, good point. Well, they have been repairing the ship. Maybe they decide, well, this is a stupid design. Let's
It's a fucking stupid design.
Let's reconfigure it.
It's even stupider now that he's actually using it like it's a fucking phone. Now you're using it like a phone. Make it like a fucking phone. Oh, Jesus.
And now the London, extending its transport tube, is reminding Dani of a certain robot vacuum cleaner from the Teletubbies.
Air pressure established.
Do you know it looked like Nunu then? Sorry? It looked a bit like Nunu, the vacuum cleaner from Teletubbies.
Oh, right.
When it got attached, the actual bit just looked like... I'd like to share.
Thanks, Dev.
Welcome.
Avon now joins the list of characters Dani likes.
What do you suppose did that to him?
That's what we're supposed to find out. Execution may have some appeal after all.
Let's go.
We love him.
It's the end of episode 2, and I try to probe Dani on her thoughts so far.
Yeah, it's coming into it. It's getting interesting.
Yeah. You liking some of the characters?
Yeah. I like, is it Villa?
Yeah.
I like Villa.
The pickpocket.
I like Jenna.
You like her outfit?
I just like her as well.
What were you saying about their outfits before?
That they've not got changed, and so they're in dirty clothes, and they're in dirty clothes.
Because they've been travelling for 8 months,
Yeah.
haven't they?
But also, the most drab colours going.
Well, it is a totalitarian state, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's drab, and it's boring, and it's horrid. Apart from her outfit is slay.
Because her outfit stands out even among the other women we've seen so far.
Yeah, her outfit is slay. Those beads.
Yeah.
Ew.
After Dani spent much of Death Race 2000 pointing out how phallic the futuristic glass microphones looked to her, I guess we should have predicted her response to the Liberator guns.
Handgun?
It's a bit elaborate for a toothpick.
It's another glass dildo.
Dani.
It is! It's what they keep doing.
I think you're going to be seeing these waved around a lot in this show somehow.
Oh, come on now. Oh, the 70s. Nam.
What, the designers all had dildos on the breast?
Yeah.
And it seems Paul Darrow isn't the only actor to remind Dani of modern day comedians. There's something about David Jackson's voice as Gan.
You're gonna shut your mouth or have I got to do it for you?
Only if you're lying down. Because if you touch him again, I'm gonna break your arms and legs off.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Matt Berry.
Yes!
He
He sounds like Matt Berry, doesn't he?
Matt Berry.
It sounds just like him. It's
That
distracting.
was so, like... What? Oh, that was a...
Why do you suppose they put us down here?
Dani finally sees someone she recognises on Cygnus Alpha.
His blessings are upon you. Speak, and he will hear you.
What, Dan? Your face. Danielle is currently pointing at the screen at Brian Blessed.
Yeah!
You're just mouthing his name.
Yeah!
Like you're in disbelief.
Yeah! You didn't tell me Brian Blessed was in it.
No.
I got Brian Blessed and Matt Berry.
A true bounty.
Quite attractive when he was younger, isn't he?
Hmm.
That's all I'm going to say.
Jenna has her first change of clothes in 8 months, and Dani is less than impressed.
What have you done?
Just looking.
We can't get Blake back.
Nah, the previous outfit were better.
I thought
Oh, you don't like this one?
Nope. This is ugly.
and a room full of them down there.
Brian Blessed explodes, and Dani is sad.
Aww. Brian Blessed's dead.
Yeah.
He went kaboom.
After Cygnus Alpha, we show Dani a short clip from the episode Time Squad, in which the alien telepath Callie joins Blake's crew. Then it's on to the last episode of the reaction, Seek, Locate, Destroy. But already the crew seem to have forgotten about Callie.
Has anybody seen her since she came back on board?
I haven't, you know.
Neither have I.
Well done.
We'll get back.
We can't. The interceptors.
We can't just leave her there.
Yeah, fuck you, Calvin.
Poor Callie. Dani's fascination with the world of Blake 7 communicators continues, with the one used by the Kentaro base technician.
Yes? Right.
What is it?
They found something under the rubble.
Yeah, that one makes more sense.
What, moving it up and down?
Yeah, that one makes more sense. That it's not necessarily a microphone, it's done on, like...
Vibration?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how those work for people who've got cochlear implants and stuff. That's all to do with the bone in your ear, so...
The base technician's curious test to see if Callie is alive amuses Dani.
She dead?
I checked.
Are you dead?
Sir? She's alive.
He put out his hand straight on her forehead. I'll check that she's dead. Yeah, because putting your hands on foreheads totally...
You, get a medical squad.
Dani, once again, is reminded of Death Race 2000 by Space Commander Travis. Like Frankenstein, he is also clad in black leather, has mutilated features, a face mask, and an artificial hand.
It only troubles me because it's a constant reminder that the man who caused it is still alive.
Blake.
Sure, you don't have a hand grenade
That's why
under
I
that glove.
chose you.
Oh?
He's a bit similar, isn't
Oh,
it?
100%.
I read all the reports.
The last episode of the reaction comes to an end. Dani scribbles more notes and remains reluctant to give many thoughts on what she has seen, instead asking to take home more episodes to watch later. So, Dani, thoughts?
It's a bit slow. I'm interested, but it is a bit slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I want these on a USB though.
So, Dani, you were pretty quiet during Blake 7 for quite a big chunk of it, and quite enigmatic. What were your thoughts? Were you absorbed in it, or were you just getting bored as you went along?
Please don't kill me. I was bored.
You were bored?
I was bored. I can take it back to now. So I think it's slow is what I'm going to say. I think it's a slow start, and I don't know if it was just I wasn't in the mood that day. I just don't know, but I remember watching it and I came away thinking, I know I've taken some episodes to watch on my own, but I don't think I will. Was very much my attitude. But then I did watch some episodes on my own. I'll be honest, there were only season 1 episodes.
Yes.
But actually, I started to get into it, and I think it's just that it was a slow get into, and I think I could persevere with it. And I say persevere sounds like a bad word there, but I mean, I could persevere the slowness to get into the stories and actually enjoy it.
Was it the first episode that you were having problems with, or was it because it just focused on him? Or was it the sparseness of the sets, or the pacing of it?
I think it's the pacing. It wasn't the sets. I'm not bothered about things like that, because I do quite like watching a lot of plays. You know what I mean? Some plays have got the most amazing props, and then some of them it's a painted backdrop, and that's about it. If I'm watching acting, I'm okay. I think the pacing wasn't right for me. I think it was very much just too slow. It didn't help, I don't think, that we watched, was it like episodes 1 and 2, and then we skipped because we had to.
Well, we had a break and then we watched episode 3.
Yeah, and then but we watched
So we watched the first 3 episodes. So we watched The Way Back, Timefall, and Cygnus Alpha. And then we moved on to Seek, Locate, Destroy because Servalan was introduced in that one, and Space Commander Travis.
So you missed Callie being introduced.
We showed her a few minutes of Callie being introduced, just to give some context, because I said to Kevin, I'm a bit concerned because she's going to be like, who's this person who's suddenly tagging along?
And it still felt that way, even though I'd seen that kind of few minutes. I think that's the thing. I think I understand why it was shown to me the way it was. Even those hand-picked episodes that I watched after it, because I then watched Project Avalon, Deliverance, and Aurak. I watched those, and I've watched those today.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but Project Avalon, I was just like hooked, love it.
It's a really good episode.
Yeah. I was like, this is actually good. I don't know what the other crap was that you showed me, but this is good. That's how I felt.
The other crap was the development of the programme.
It was the setting up before they finally got on Liberator and was off on their adventures is what was boring you.
Yeah, I think so.
You're not missing much with The Web. That was another episode you skipped.
I think, is that episode 4 I started watching?
That's Time Squad.
Something.
Time Squad.
I started watching that, but I didn't have enough time because I'll be honest, it was today. I texted Rebecca saying, what episodes do I need to watch? And she suggested an episode, and I went in and I was like going, yeah, I don't have that episode that you've suggested, so...
Gambits. Yeah, I suggested Gambits because I thought... Because you seem to like Villa, so I thought, oh, maybe Gambit.
Yeah, I like Villa. Although Project Avalon made me really like Avon. I'm very much an Avon fan.
Yeah. Avon's the best.
So with Project Avalon, what was it? Was it the fact that everyone was together, the whole thing was there now, the ship was there?
I think the dynamic was there. I think the right balance of characters was there. I think before that, you were waiting for it to kind of balance out. And there was too much of somebody and not enough for somebody else. Whereas, like, by that point, it was like, it was done very well. And like, oh, you're coming here and you're coming here. And it was paced better. I don't know.
It's also really, like in Project Avalon, all the claustrophobic corridor fights and
the caves.
Yeah. The caves and the threats of that robot, wasn't there?
With the virus bomb.
And the virus.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there was quite a few things going on.
A clever conceit at the end.
Yes.
With what she really is.
Yeah.
So you say about the setup. I'm not old enough to have seen the first series. My memories of Blake 7 are from the fourth series, so that's 1980-81, and maybe some of the repeats of the third one as well. So I took a chance buying the video of the first 2 episodes, because obviously a lot of the same names, Chris Boucher, David Maloney, whatever, from Doctor Who that I liked. So I watched that first one, I thought, oh, there's no Liberator. It's a standalone story. And then the other 2, it's like, who's going to be in the crew? You know, there's that guy that gets stuck in a crawl space, Brell. So like you think, oh, he could have been it. And then there's Arco, he's singing Alpha. He could have been part of the crew. Because my memory wasn't enough. So it's like, oh, who's going to be the 7? I like that build-up. But I can also see how that could drag for you. But I really like that. I thought, oh, I've got to watch the next one. I want to see who's going to be part of the crew now.
Now, what's interesting about that, when you watched it first... I was born in 1970, so when January 1978 rolled up, I was 7 3/4, and my dad told me there was this new space series on, because obviously I was watching the Tom Baker Doctor Who's and a big fan of those. So we sat down to watch Blake's 7 as a 7-year-old. I mean, it was aimed at adults, but as a 7-year-old,
8:30 or something, wasn't it?
I remember it coming on after A Question of Sport. And just as with Doctor Who, I used to, the football results, come on, get rid of them, then the local news programmes, then Doctor Who. Yeah. I had the same feeling about A Question of Sport. Please, how much more of this is there, you know? And with the first episode, I can remember that very cartoony title sequence that it has, and the Liberator coming towards the screen and then going away, and thinking, as a 7-year-old, that's going to be their spaceship. And then, as the episode progresses, it's not there.
You're wondering, where's that spaceship?
Where's the spaceship?
Yeah.
Where are the other people? It's called Blake's 7. So who are they going to be? So it was a slow burner, that first one. It was very much a character piece. I'm watching it as an adult now, and I rewatched it last week. I was quite struck by how it really is building up who Blake is. Yeah. And really, that is all it is, that first episode. And the corruption of the Federation, where those 2 legal people believe Blake's story and they find the truth of it out and then they're killed off.
Yeah, it's quite brutal because it's
very
all kinds
dark.
Of people die in these first 3 episodes. You know, people you think might be in it. Oh no, they're gone. They're gone. And that continues throughout the show. It's like Game of Thrones and Walking Dead. Like, so no one's safe.
In front of me is a book that I believe it's John's, and it's a
programme
program guide. And in the back there's like a glossary of like terms, and I saw Gan, and I saw that he's the first to go, and I was like, great, put it down, stop spoiling yourself. And I put the book down.
Sorry, Dani, I should have put a post-it with spoilers.
Don't get too attached to Gan, will you?
I know, I like Gan as well.
I was really upset when he died.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm gonna be now.
Yeah, you like Gan, and you said when we were watching what I was thinking as well, which is the guy who plays him sounds like Matt Sperry.
So much.
From
I can't stop every time I'm like, Matt Berry.
Yeah. So anyone who doesn't know Matt Sperry, he's an actor who's in Garth Marenghi's Dark Place and What We Do in the Shadows, Toast of London.
IT Crowd.
Yeah, the rabbit.
Yeah.
But yeah, he sounds so like him, Gan.
Oh, he really does. I was very much like, oh my god. And then I have another issue where every so often I look at Avon and I go, why do you look like Frank Skinner?
It's the mouth.
It's the mouth. It's the mouth.
You must be the only person in the last
Probably.
40 odd years that has said he looks like Frank Skinner.
So Frank Skinner for the remake.
Yeah. Avon, when I was a boy and my aunties and uncles were talking about it with me, Avon was the heartthrob of the thing.
He was definitely.
So to say Frank Skinner is a remarkable comparison.
Well, you know.
But I can oddly see what you mean.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back and have a look now. Going back to what you were saying, Will, about the title sequence, obviously, we know that Blake 7 had the budget and allocation of Z-Cars, a police series that had been cancelled.
So it was softly. It was replacing in the slot, but also it was given the same budget.
Yeah.
Same budget as a cop show.
Yeah. It's like, The Bill, that kind of programme. Making a big space series on the budget.
Yeah, because
the weekly cop show.
The effects designer, they filmed Spacefall first. He used the entire season's effects budget on that first episode.
Yeah,
I think that's partly why some of the titles are animated rather than models.
Yeah,
but interestingly, whenever I rewatch it now, that opening shot of the dome, we made a bad fan film parody of Blake 7. And that dome in our version became Gareth Preston's forehead. So I always think...
I can actually picture that.
We'll dig it out for you.
Okay.
Liberator, it's Avon. We're down.
So what's happening, Doctor? So what's happening, Avon?
Well,
another interesting thing, this connects us to the tripods, Dani, is those titles were designed by Bob Blagden, who directed Series 2 of the tripods.
Yeah, he directed the City episodes.
Yeah.
That was his first directing job, the City episodes of the tripods, yeah. Graphic designer before that. So Blake 7 was one of his early graphic jobs.
There was another tripods connection as well. Martin Bauer, a model maker, built the tripods models for the TV series. He also made the teleport bracelets and built some of the models for Blake 7.
On the Cult of Blake 7, Matt Irvine talks about the teleportation bracelets and how they just kept disappearing, breaking and stuff. And they saw on Blue Peter, they were showing kids how to make their own teleport bracelets, and they looked so good. They copied the Blue Peter method and just quickly made a load of cardboard bracelets and used them in the show, and no one could tell the difference.
I really desperately wanted a teleport bracelet, I have to tell you. On Swap Shop, which was a Saturday morning programme, the precursor to Going Live and Kicking and those kind of things, Noel Edmonds presented Swap Shop, and I think it must have been set 1979 after the show had been a hit and gone into a second season. They had Gareth Thomas, I don't want to get me Gareths mixed up, Gareth Thomas and Jacqueline Pearce, who plays Servalan. They were guests. And Gareth Thomas gave away as a competition prize a teleport bracelet from the programme. And a friend of mine, a school friend of mine, some weeks earlier had won the model of the Millennium Falcon, the toy model of the Millennium Falcon, because it had some Star Wars people on. Yeah. So I thought, if David Holford can win the Millennium Falcon, there's a good chance I could win this teleport bracelet. I sent him my postcard and was utterly gutted the following week when they pulled out the winning postcard and it wasn't me. And for decades thereafter, I want a teleport bracelet. And around that time, that would have been when Leslie Judd on Blue Peter showed us how to make one out of orange squash bottles.
I know,
so you cut the rings out, and then you put a layer of cardboard on the inside, colour it in the right colour. There were transfers for the alien writing and the silver bands that go round. And I remember her saying, and for the red button, you need one of these pencil rubbers that's oblong shaped and red. And I thought, I've never seen a rubber that looks like that. And I never did find one for my homemade teleport bracelets. I had to make it out of something else. But it bugged me at the time that what they didn't have is a hinge so that you can click it open and put it on.
Do the click.
So we fast forward several decades. I can't remember if it was a wedding anniversary or something, but we had a bit of money, my wife and I. And she said, do you mind if I spend X amount on this bit of jewellery that I've got my eye on? So I said, yeah, go for it. I said, as long as I can spend mine on a Blake 7 teleport bracelet. And she said, what is that? So I said, well, it's plastic. It's got some transfers on it and a bit of a silver thing and a red button. And it has a hinge, so the bracelet opens and closes. And Martin Bauer has run off some copies, basically, and is selling them on his website. And it's £100+ So she just looked at me, £100+ for a piece of plastic with a red button on. And she said, oh, well, if you really want it. So I bought the Martin Bauer bracelet, and I can remember opening it up and putting it on. And being so thrilled with the click that it sounds like the proper click. And a friend of mine who I showed it to, she said, you're so sad. How can you get excited over a click? But I was very excited, I have to say.
I was excited wearing it earlier when we were trying them on.
Then the silver bits were coming off. So there's a guy, I can't remember his name, but he runs a company called Century Castings, I think they're called. And they make replicas of the gun and the bracelet, various Blake 7 props. And I sent it to him to get it repaired. Yeah. And then he told me, it's wrong. He said the alien writing isn't like the alien writing on TV. The button is the wrong colour. Well, Martin Bauer told me himself, he said the company that he sourced them from, the material that the button was made out of, they no longer had it in red. Anyway, I found out that Century Castings made bracelets for considerably less, that they had the foam stuff on the inside to protect your hand. The writing was correct. The red button was the correct colour. And when I got that one, I had to... I'm sorry, Mr. Bauer, but I have to say it. The fan-made replica is more accurate than yours. But it completed me, this, John. Getting his teleport bracelet.
I'm sure it would. I think I'd feel the same as you will. Because I know we do replicas of the Liberator gun, the Scorpio gun, and the Scorpio bracelet, and they look amazing from photos of people that have got them.
When Gareth Thomas gave his away on Swap Shop all those years ago, Noel Evans said, and does it work? And Gareth Thomas said, well, the Liberator does have to be in teleport range for it to work. So that was his get out.
I like that answer. That's a good answer.
And so what did you think of it? Because Blake 7 is renowned for its budget, Dan. So what did you think of it overall in terms of its look, its aesthetics, its style?
Drab.
Very 70s. Very 70s.
The way back is the drabbest episode.
Oh, God, yeah.
Two best things about Blake 7 are the writing and the acting. And they just distract you from the fact they've got no money. Even on the seasons later on where we actually did get an increase in budget to be a science fiction show. But that first one, drab corridors, I mean, it's meant to be drab, isn't it? But I don't think they deliberately went out the way to make it drab.
I was thinking that on my rewatch. I thought that given that it's supposed to be a kind of 1984 George Orwell type thing, that the white corridors and that sparseness actually works in its favour. I picked up also in the background this kind of dreamy lift music.
They're also wandering around dazed.
Yeah, they're all
I thought that was really
good
good because you noticed they walked into someone bumping into people.
Yeah, they were bumping into people.
It's because they were medicated, they were drugged.
But I'm not talking about just the first episode, I am just talking about in general. From all the episodes I've watched, it was very 70s. And the only thing I would like to say is it the first episode, second episode with Jenna's outfit?
Yeah.
Fire. It is amazing. The beads, it's colour, it's pretty, it's sparkly. I'm being very girly here, but it was just beautiful. That was the only thing that I went, this is a really nice costume. The rest was not.
Was that her first one, or when she put that blouse on later on?
No, it's when she's when they're in the prisoner bit.
Oh, right, yeah, the first one.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It looks quite nice.
You'd be pleased to know, Dan, that as the show progresses, it gets less drab and brown in its fashion styles, and it starts going a bit more black metal. They all start dressing like the Cradle of Filth fans.
Okay, I mean, slight improvement.
Lots of studs and black leather.
I mean,
because as it goes along, I'm like, okay, is this some kind of code back then for being hard? Because now,
yes, it's still code now.
Some of the outfits are epic in terms of the studs. I'd love to show you.
Can I ask, do the flares disappear? Because they are wearing flares. They're not major. I'm not talking about like in your face, the biggest flares you've ever seen. But you do see them in trilogy. They're going, you're wearing flares. This is dating you. This is making you feel very 70s.
Yeah, the flares vanished. I guess just a taste of the time.
I'm just thinking about the set of The Liberator. As a boy and watching it later on as a man, I could sort of see past the fact that it was all just sort of stuck together. Even Roger Murray Leach, who designed it, said it was stuck together with sellotape and safety pins. Everybody who worked on it, the props guys, hated putting it together. Something I'm interested in is, from your perspective, is could you see past what it looked like and see what it was meant to be?
Yes, 100%. Like, I didn't need to look... I'll be honest with you, I didn't look at it and think it was cheap or anything like that. I ignored all that. I was involved in the story, so I was quite happy with that. Yeah, it made no difference for me viewing it. I wasn't pulled away thinking, oh, that looks like that. It's more outfits that do it for me than it is props. I can always forgive. I don't know why it is outfits that make me go, come on now. But the props are fine.
You kept picking up on the continuity error with the communicator props on the London, about them holding, sometimes the communicator to their mouth, sometimes to their ears.
Yeah. A very strange way of communicating that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be futuristic.
But it kind of is. Because if you think about phones nowadays, how many young people do you see with their phones on speaker talking to their phone, but they're holding their phone at their mouth, and you just think, put it off speaker and just use your phone like a phone.
Yeah.
I think that's how it felt for me watching it going, which way are you using this phone?
Irritating.
I always think they're paying homage to Star Trek with their communicators.
It's interesting with comparisons with Star Trek, because Terrence Dicks, in talking about Blake 7, he said Star Trek is the big giant spaceship with all the people in it going round helping people and civilizing worlds and introducing them to a better way of living and the final frontier and all of that. Whereas Blake 7 is typically British, typically dystopian, typically influenced by World War II imagery. And the people in the big spaceship are all criminals, and and a lot of people get killed, including some of the crew. It's the complete opposite, really, to what Star Trek was.
I kind of like that, though. I like that. More than the sparkly prettiness of... Sounds really bad, that, doesn't it? That I prefer corruptness.
Yeah, murder is better than civilising people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, Gareth Preston talked about this with his guests in the first episode of his podcast, Very British Futures, because they were talking about Pathfinders in space and comparing 50s British sci-fi with 50s American sci-fi, and saying how the American stuff was so optimistic and...
heroic.
Yeah, whereas the British stuff was like 1984 and grim and stuff like that. So Dan, before we started watching Blake 7, I asked you what you thought it was going to be, and you said you thought it was going to be like Star Trek and Red Dwarf. Do you still think that, or did your opinion change?
I haven't seen enough Star Trek to comment on it being like Star Trek.
Oh, because
I've only seen Lower Decks, and I don't really think that counts. I think it's got some similarities with Red Dwarf, and this is a character thing, I feel like the characters are believable and their interactions with each other is believable and how they actually interact with one another. Again, I don't know if that's just because they're both British pieces and they're portraying normal British people almost, and you can kind of, like, you know, that conversation we just had about, like, you know, American things are all like really optimistic, whereas I feel like there's like so many times where they're just being a bit like sarcastic and twattish to each other, and I quite like that, but it's that kind of British thing where you can be a bit more like that because it's just the way we are as people.
More snarky.
Yeah,
they're more flawed.
Yeah.
In the same way that Lister and Rimmer are just work colleagues and not friends.
Yeah.
It's the same with the Liberator crew. I don't think any of them are possibly friends at all. Maybe Callie and Jenna, but that's about it.
You got to work with them. You're with them.
They're all thrown together out of necessity, really,
That's
aren't
it,
they?
yeah.
And Blake is the only one who isn't an actual criminal. He's regarded as a criminal, but he's not someone who's gone round committing crimes in the way that we think of it. You know, in the way that Avon did, for example, robbing a bank, or Villa being a thief, or
Jenna being a smuggler and pirate.
He's the leader of the pack, but in a way, he's not like the others. He's driven by an idealistic view of things, whereas they just want to survive.
Yeah, Villa says he just likes Blake. Because Avon asks him at one point why he's still following Blake, and he's like, "Oh, I like him." And Avon's like, "That's not enough."
But it's a believable one. Yeah, I could imagine somebody just going, "Yeah, that's what I'm doing it, just because I like him."
He felt safe with Blake because, you know, Villa's a coward, and in some way Gan kind of protected him as well.
Villa is, I think, faking it a bit, though. I think he's exaggerating. There are moments when he does have something that comes to the surface, like the episode where Dan sadly didn't see this episode, but it's the episode where Gan's having an operation and there's some dodgy surgeons left alone with Gan, and everyone else is just chilling out in the flight deck, and Villa's like thinking, I don't trust these guys, and he quietly slips a gun with him and goes and he pulls out the gun on the surgeons, and he's like, I haven't told anyone because I know Blake's got a conscience, whereas he's like, nah, you know, I'm going to do this. I will kill you if I have to. I think he's more a bit of laziness than cowardice. He just can't be bothered.
Yeah.
There's a line in one of them, I don't think it's in one that you've seen, where they're breaking into somewhere, and Blake says, what do you think of this lock? Do you think you can do it? The robot security thing comes gliding around the corner. He says, I can open it if I'm scared enough.
Yeah.
And Blake says, are you scared enough of this one?
Actually, that does come familiar.
Yes,
actually.
the sequel case.
Yeah.
Oh, right, so it was one that where they blow the place up. Yeah. So you get moments like that really what he really is, rather than just being this frightened guy hiding behind everybody else.
Yeah.
Dani, did it feel like it could be set in 2022 because there's CCTV cameras everywhere in the domed city?
Yeah, there's that, and like, well, there was something in an episode I watched today that made me go, this could happen now.
Oh, I don't know. Aurak can connect to any other computer, like some kind of Wi-Fi internet-y thing.
I think Aurak might have been.
And Zen is a little bit like an Alexa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Where it's this huge display on the wall and a voice. And we have a little tiny one that does the same thing. That can open and close your curtains and put the telly on and so forth.
That's it, yeah.
With voice instruction.
Zen, play Taylor Swift.
Confirmed.
Because you said once to me, saying, one thing Star Trek got wrong is everyone in that always says, computer, do this, computer, do that, when really we give it names. And I guess Blake 7 got that right.
Yeah, because we name things. We like to name things. Even though Zen's meant to be like I'm assuming an alien. It's an alien's craft, isn't it? So like, did they call him Zen or did Zen call himself Zen?
He called himself Zen. He said designation Zen or whatever when it came online, and it got the name Liberator from Jenna's mind.
Yeah, because she saw the ship as the thing that will liberate them. Yeah, I like all that. I like the fact that the computer got its own identity to some degree out of her mind.
He doesn't give them straight answers either.
No, it's very mysterious, isn't it? If they want to do something that will put them in danger, it can't tell them not to do it, but it can't kind of give them its blessing either.
No, it just things like shuts things off and makes it difficult for them if they want to go somewhere that's dangerous. Avon always gets frustrated with Zen because he's like, it's a machine, it should answer the question, and it's not answered the question.
The visual side of it, when I first saw that, I was very impressed with that as a boy, that display and the bar that moved when he spoke. And one of the actors who would come into it later Stephen Pacey told a story of Peter Tuddenham, who did the voice, sat in his booth round the back. The voice actually did get played into the set live, and the display really did react to Peter Tuddenham's voice. It wasn't someone pressing buttons to make it sync up. So when the lady with the coffee trolley came round and said, would you like coffee, Peter? The bar on the display would suddenly start flashing on and off in sync with Peter's voice. And he'd say, oh, yes, please, and 2 sugars, please. And the actors who were stood on the set would see Zen order a coffee with 2 sugars.
So speaking of the show being quite grim in a way, what do you think of the first episode where they're so desperate to frame Blake, they go to the extent of implanting false memories into children to make them to believe that he molested them?
It's horrific.
It is, it's sick.
It is. And again, it's believable. It's not something that I would think is so far-fetched that it's like, oh God, that's something. I could believe a government would do that. I could believe if that technology was available now, yes, I could believe that would happen.
If they wanted to discredit somebody so badly, they would do it, regardless of the effect on the children who would carry the memories of that for the rest of their lives.
And I think as well, like, almost, we kind of already have that kind of thing. Obviously, it's not like putting the false memories in, but the fact that we can discredit people so easily, and how it's so easy to just discredit somebody just because they're not liked, and push them in the wrong way.
And you can do it with just a suggestion. It doesn't even have to be true, does it?
No.
You can just imply or directly accuse them. You know, it's just their word against the person. And even if later on it's proved to be a load of rubbish, it's gone in everyone's mind. Everyone who's read it has absorbed it. Yeah.
It's this culture of people are guilty until proven innocent.
Trial by social media, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was an example fairly recently on Twitter. Some news outlet, I can't remember what it was, posted a tweet with the most appalling headline, and people say Matt Berry should sue them because the headline was basically saying children on set of What We Do in the Shadows was warned about Matt Berry, and everyone's like, what the hell? And you read it, it's basically saying, oh, he swears a lot.
Yeah.
But they made it sound really dodgy, and people like saying he should sue them.
Because it's taken out of context
and
deliberately.
It was a very bad headline, that.
That'd be like me, warned for my swearing.
Nobody told me about this. Although I did hear some Tripodcast episodes, so I should have known.
I can't help it.
Okay, so Dan, what was your favourite part of the show so far?
Did you have a favourite character?
My 2 favourite characters are Avon and Gan. Yes.
Good
I
choice.
love them.
So why?
Avon, just because
he's Avon.
Yeah, he's Avon. He's snide. He says what he wants. He doesn't tolerate fools. He's got this kind of like, if he thinks it, his face says it. And as somebody who also has that, I enjoy that with other people. And I don't know what it is about Gan that I just think, I don't know if it's the Matt Berry voice that's doing it for me, but I just really like him. I just think he's a really nice character from what I've seen so far.
He's very loyal to Blake and very...
He's just lovely.
And a victim of his circumstances. Really, if the Federation guard hadn't have killed his woman, then he wouldn't have killed the guard. And he wouldn't be there. He'd just be a regular man living his life.
I think he's like the least criminal of the criminals, even though he did the worst crime.
I don't know if it's deliberate, but there's a kind of Robin Hood analogy with Blake 7. They even put Gareth Thomas in green, and Gan is the Little John of the setup.
Do you see that?
No.
No, you don't.
No.
Okay.
I got that from your face.
Well, it was originally pitched as the Magnificent Seven in space.
It was a Dirty Dozen.
Dirty Dozen in space.
Because they're criminals.
Well, no, because in interviews, Paul Darrott and I think Gareth Thomas talk about it being like a Wild West kind of thing, and they say like the Magnificent Seven.
It was Terry Nation's pitch.
And then Chris Boucher, the script editor, said he agreed to that and then discreetly changed it to Che Guevara in space. So the tone of it is more in his mind, more that.
Yeah, one man's freedom fighters, another man's terrorists is something that the cast mentioned a lot in interviews as well, didn't they?
What about other characters? What do you think of Blake?
Silence, listeners.
I don't care.
Well, what do you think about the contrast between Avon and Blake? Because they are opposites in many ways.
Yeah, I do. I like that. It's that opposites attract kind of thing, and they've got that bounce off of each other. They are completely different.
Yeah,
they think things differently, and their ideologies and what's pushing them are completely different things. it's interesting that Avon goes along with what Blake's doing, because he doesn't seem like the kind of person who naturally would have gone along with it. Like, I don't feel like he's someone who thinks anything's going to change, and he's like, I'm going to work...
benefiting from being there, isn't he?
That's it. It's that thing of, I'll that's it. He's benefiting from it. He's going, I can get something from this, but otherwise I wouldn't have been here.
I love the dynamic in the second episode where they're on the prison ship and they're in the computer room, and there's that exchange between Blake, Avon, and Jenna. Avon says, we're free. And Blake says, no, not until people can think and speak, not until power is back with the honest man. And then Avon says, have you ever met an honest man?
Yeah, I
And
agree
Jenna
with that.
says, perhaps, alluding to Blake.
Yeah.
So there's a dynamic between the three of them there. That Avon is so cynical. He thinks Blake is wasting his time. We should just get on the Liberator, just run for it. And no Federation ship would ever catch up with them. They could just run forever and be free. But Blake doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. I do relate to Avon in that way, because I'm the same kind of person. I would be the person that says, what's the point? Pick your battles. What's the point? You're never going to win.
Avon's always calculating the odds.
Yeah, I think that is my mentality for certain things. That's probably why I like him as a character.
What do you think?
I am quite cynical.
Yeah.
I know I come across as very bubbly and silly and stuff on here, but I am quite a cynical person.
So what about when he's mulling over, when they teleport Blake down to Cygnus Alpha and the discussion with Jenna, we could just leave him.
I'm with him on that.
You're with him.
I'm terrible. I leave him. Just go.
Zen, standard by two.
Yeah. And the best bit is, I'm a Hufflepuff, so loyal, but yet I'm not.
Yeah. Interesting paradox.
Yeah.
We're saying how well the dynamic between Avon and Blake is written. Jenna, on the other hand, and Callie, to some extent, were underwritten.
Yeah, Callie was very inconsistently written. What did you think of Callie?
Which one's Callie?
The telepath.
Which one's Callie?
The one with the curly hair.
She's the one who you showed me an episode later on, isn't she?
Yes, she joined later.
Yeah, I didn't care for her.
And Jenna?
I liked Jenna.
You liked her outfit,
pirate.
didn't you?
I liked her outfit, but I liked her as well, because I liked how I liked the fact that she was kind of like that gun-ho kind of woman who just like kind of did all that kind of stuff. But Callie, I couldn't even tell you who she was then.
so you can empathise with them forgetting that she's on board in Seek, Locate, Destroy.
You do comment on that, going, they've forgotten all about it.
Poor Callie.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, where's Callie?
Yeah.
It's a bit like when David Cameron and his wife left their daughter in the pub, thinking each of them had her in their car.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about that now, John.
Callie is really inconsistently written. Some episodes she's written well, and because she's a guerrilla fighter who's been on her own on this planet for how long? Months, years, fighting. She's obviously capable, and some episodes she knows what she's talking about, and even suggests plans to Blake, saying we should target this base or this depot or whatever. And then other episodes she's useless.
It's inconsistencies with the writers, even with a script editor. It's just like, I don't know if Boucher has admitted they should have done more to give Callie and Jenna a consistent character.
It's like with Jenna, they start off with this, she's this tough space pirate, and then that's kind of forgotten as the series goes on. That's what her background is. With Callie, they're very good at focusing on the fact that she's a telepath, that she has these mysterious origins.
Yeah.
But if she's in an episode where that's not involved, then she's just some character in the sidelines. The ones that focus on her, she does have 2 or 3 Callie-heavy episodes.
She gets what we call the Deanna Troi episodes. Because it was exactly how they dealt with Deanna Troi in Star Trek The Next Generation. They didn't know what to do with it unless it's an episode that uses the telepathic, empathic powers. And unfortunately, both of them are subjected to this horrendous trope of the mind rape.
Yeah.
It's a trope they do to women in films and TV shows where if they've got telepathic or sensual abilities, they do this mind rape thing, and it's just horrible. Callie is a victim of that kind of writing.
She is. In fact, quite a few episodes, they end up manning the teleport while the men teleport down for the action.
Well, or they have Callie doing the nurse job.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of episodes I've noticed. She is the one who's tending to the wounded and the sick.
I suppose because she's a telepath, she'll be empathetic. That way.
even
No, I'm
that's
saying
not-
it. No, I'm just saying it as a
I think the
comment.
writers would see her as the sensitive one.
Yeah.
So she
yeah.
would do the sensitive role.
The only strongly written woman was Servalan, who Nation originally wrote half a script. The character was male and thought, I know, I'll make her a woman instead. This will be more interesting. But I don't think they wrote her like a man, because obviously she's quite touchy-feely and...
Well, Jacqueline Pierce said in an interview on The Cult of Blake 7, she says they were wanting her to wear more combat stuff and have
Really?
they wanted her to dress like a man, look like a man. And she says, well, get a man then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was the one who suggested, no, let's get her dressing more feminine.
Yeah.
As and I thought it worked very well.
I think that worked very well. She's a very strong woman.
Yes.
She doesn't feel written like a man who's just, we've got a woman to play
No.
this character.
No.
But is it because of her acting? Has she pulled that through? Like you say, because of saying about the outfits and stuff, that she's using her outfits to be more feminine, therefore is portraying more as just a strong woman.
And Servalan wasn't even meant to be a regular. She was just going to be in that one episode, and then they kept bringing her back.
Yeah, she's great. I do like her.
And her sidekick, Travis. You know, I still find it kind of silly that they put the word space before things, because it's the future and scientific. Like Space Commander, you know, and space security.
Yeah, but it has to differentiate
I
between
know.
your job on Earth and
True.
in space.
Thank you, Dan.
The sensible one.
Yeah, do you think Travis did well in Deliverance and Aurak? Or did he deserve a kicking, so to speak, from Servalan?
No, he deserved the kicking. The character reminded me, I don't know if it was a weird 70s thing,
Yeah.
because it made me think very much of Death Race. Because of his Frankenstein with what he's wearing.
And,
Yeah.
And the hand.
and
but-
the hand.
and the hand.
Because you joked at the time
Yeah.
saying, has he got a grenade in his house?
Yeah. But
Close enough.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know if it was a weird 70s thing, a coincidence, I don't know.
I can remember making, as a boy, I made my own teleport bracelets. I made my own Liberator out of fairy liquid bottle and toilet rolls, like you
very
do,
good.
with a little green football on the back. And I made myself a Travis hand.
Wow.
I got black leather glove and put a ring on it
Cool.
with a yellow thing that I could twist round and kill people with my glove.
Nice.
You could use a ring pop, because they will look very much like Travis's ring.
Yeah.
Do you remember ring pops?
Yeah.
Sweets.
You can still buy them.
There you go. So
But-
go and
but-
have a game of Travis later.
Yes. Although I've not seen a yellow flavoured one. They tend to just be like red or purple, because my daughter Amber likes buying them.
And that weird... I could never work out whether that was meant to be a kind of weird eye patch, the black bit
I
on
know,
or is that meant to be scarred tissue?
I thought it was scarred tissue.
No,
It
no,
just
no.
looks stuck on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like it's going into the skin. Or at
It's
least
kind
Yeah.
of bandagey thing, but
And then
you're
the
right.
camera catches him at a certain angle. You can see his eye inside.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
you
could.
So
can.
that, as a boy, that used to
Yeah.
confuse me. What is it meant to be?
Yeah.
That
I know. Spoiler for Dani.
Oh.
But they kept Travis for series 2, but the actor who played him in series 1, Stephen Greif, left to work on something else. And so the new actor had a new costume, but they still kept the eye patch and hand, of course. And it's more a traditional eye patch that only covers the eye, although it's stuck to his face, you know, rather than an elastic strap or whatever. But I think that looks more realistic as an eye patch, or to cover a missing eye, than the big black blob that covers half of
Well,
his
I
face.
thought the black blob was better because it wasn't just an eye patch. I thought it was to get across the amount of damage that was done to Travis by Blake. Yeah, he didn't want to have it prettied up or anything afterwards, after the field dressing, because he wanted it to serve as a reminder every day of what Blake did to him and why he's driven to seek him out and kill him.
And Blake would recognise him because of it.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I take it more of a weird, like, cyborg type thing as well, that they put machinery in, whether it's sentient or actually does anything, but just something there, like plastic surgeons will put things in, like, and they'll do bone grafts and stuff like that. I just feel like they've gone, right, we'll just put a bit of this in.
It's all about how damaged he is by what Blake did to him. He's
Which is why Servalan chose him.
Yeah.
Because he would be driven to catch him.
Okay, so what do you think of... Oh, we talked about Villa a bit.
Yeah, we've
already.
talked about Will. I do like him.
Yeah. Okay, we talked about Jenna.
Yeah.
Have we missed anyone?
There's the 5 human characters.
Oh,
isn't
yes.
there?
Who are the 7?
That's
what
a
do we
good
think?
question. Blake's 7.
What do you think of the title?
Well, I
Blake's
think
Seven?
of the title, that Blake has 7 people in his crew.
And is Blake one of the 7? This
No.
is something that comes out a lot in fan discussions.
Shall we count them here?
Wait.
Let's count them. So we've got Blake, right?
Yeah.
He's no.
Avon.
I'm stopping Blake there. I'm stopping you right now. We're not counting Blake.
Well, I was going to make a point when I got to the end of my list that there are actually 8. Okay, so Blake, Avon, Jenna, Villa, Callie. So that's the 5 human characters.
Gan?
Oh, I missed out Gan. Sorry, Gan.
So that's...
My boy Gan.
So, okay. So we're up to Gan, then Zen. And in the episode where Callie first comes into it, there's that exchange of dialogue where he says, 7 of us will run this ship perfectly.
Yeah.
I think Villa says 6, surely. He goes, oh, you're forgetting about Zen.
Yeah.
And then Avon says, you're not counting that machine as part of the crew. And he goes, oh, what do you say about that, Zen? Please state course and speed. Which always tickles me. So that's... A lot of people would say, well, there you are, Blake's 7. But then at the end, the last episode of Series 1 is where they pick up Aurak.
Yeah.
So that makes 8 people, or 8 characters in the crew. To my mind, that is Blake's 7.
Because Blake's not included.
Because
Blake's
is not included in 7.
And I agree.
Yeah.
I will be a diehard fan who says that as
Later on, the numbers sort of change a bit here and there. But even in the latter series, which we won't go into, because we've not seen it,
No.
there are 7. So it still remains Blake's 7, even though the crucial person is no longer there.
So Avon's not there, yeah.
Avon 6.
High five.
No.
Avon's
There are
not there.
There are 1 or 2 people who disappear as it goes along, so I'm not really spoiling anything, I don't think.
Well, I did say it's like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, oh yeah, Game of Thrones, you don't finish with who you start with.
No. Yeah. Or Walking Dead.
Where is the bridge on the Liberator model?
Yeah. It's the inside of the Liberator, when you kind of match it up with what it looks like on the outside, where is it? Where are all those rooms? Are they all in the centre bit with the
That's what I always
the
thought.
engine on the end? And what are in those turrets that go off? Are they just laser guns?
Yeah, it was never shown or explained, but that added to part of its mystery and cool, I think, because it's one of those beautiful spaceships out there. In fact, wasn't it originally meant to be flown the opposite way, and the model makers thought otherwise?
That rings a bell, that, John, that the idea, or did they say, David Maloney said to the designers, I want it to look like it should go one way, but it will go the other. I don't know if I'm
sure,
mixing that up with something else, but I remember when kids at school, they would get the little corgi model of the Liberator, who didn't watch Blake 7, but like the model, they used to fly it with the green ball going forwards, and I used to say, you're doing it wrong, it's going the wrong way, and they'd look at me like, how can that be the way it goes?
Yeah, because you think the white bits might be rockets or whatever.
Yeah. So,
like the Enterprise
I
with
love
its
the design of that Liberator very much, even now. And on the inside, the idea of it being of alien origin and that it's beautiful. I mean, it's made very much on the cheap, but you can see that they are trying to evoke that in the design. None of the Earth ships look anything like it. But then there are little bits that make me smile where the camera lifts up a little bit too high and you see the studio lights, and they've only got enough money for one section of corridor. When they go up that corridor that leads off the flight deck, it just ends in a white canvas. So where does it go? And the same for the teleport bay, that corridor doesn't go anywhere.
No, I mean, you say that, but then, right, so I know what you're trying to say, and the whole thing about where does it all fit. What if it's alien technology to bring a different, loved show into it? What if it's like the TARDIS, and it doesn't look like anything like it does on the inside as it is on the outside?
Yeah.
A fair point.
It could be bigger inside than out.
And corridors that are there in some episodes and not in others.
I'm not sure. There's some at least where corridor does intersect. So we've got 2 sections of the corridor going to the other.
Yeah.
Oh, that's later on.
They do look good, those. Where there's 4 like a cross point.
Yeah.
And then there's the episode where Brian Blessed teleports up, and the way it's shot, he appears to walk out of a bay on the opposite side towards them when Blake and Co. and they arrive.
And it's not as part of the set, is it?
And then I think it's the very next episode, that second bay isn't there. It's another corridor. Yeah. So everything gets chopped and changed.
You were excited when Brian Blessed showed
I
up.
love Brian Blessed.
You didn't know. You were like, you didn't tell me.
Yeah. Never mind the boring set. Brian Blessed.
I was just like, yes.
Yeah, there's other people who show up in some episodes you might recognise, but I won't tell you who they are in the hopes that you'll seek the episodes out.
Seek, locate and watch.
Yes.
Dan.
I like that.
So, Dan, are you aware of how popular the show back when it was on? It used to get 10 million viewers each episode on average.
Did it? Sorry, that sounds really bad. I was like, did it?
Amazingly, I do believe
it was very popular.
It beat Coronation Street once.
Really?
I don't know if that was the last episode. We won't go into what happens in the last episode, but
Yeah,
it was a big one.
Yeah.
And I heard Gareth Thomas on an interview say that they were very proud to know it beat Coronation Street once, because very few programmes did. That slot's regarded as the graveyard slot. Nothing's expected to do well in it. So Blake 7 was, remarkable for that.
Yeah, they even were planning a 5th season, but unfortunately at the time the BBC was having issues with its budget, so it was slashing a lot of shows at the time, and Doctor Who was one of the ones that was considered, but unfortunately it was Blake 7 that got the chop.
That's sad.
But since then, it's had a lot of as well as merchandise like the toys, it's also had books, it's had a magazine series which came with its own comic, and it's also had audio dramas, audiobooks.
Yeah, the first audios were for Radio 4 in 93 or 4, was it?
Around then, that was the Barry Letts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Barry Letts is a Doctor Who producer, for those who don't know.
So that was set during the 4th series, Sevenfold Crown and Cinderton Experiment. So they were kind of okay, but he'd never watched Blake 7 and was only chosen as a writer because of he was known to the director who had directed some Blake 7 on television. They were okay, and then in 2007, the company B7 Media, which was following a very, very long chain of trying to make Blake 7 again on television, eventually thought, right, sod it, let's just do audio drama. So they were 36 5-minute episodes broadcast on the Sci-Fi Channel UK's website, and then they even had someone called Benedict Cumberbatch.
I've heard of him.
Before he was famous, in a second batch where they did some kind of prequels called Blake 7 the early years.
I've always seen the CDs on sale and
they're worth a
thought,
listen.
will I like this? Because I love the old show so much.
Then Big Finish started doing their own sort of talking books.
With the original actors.
With the original actors, and then eventually doing full cast audio drama.
I very much enjoyed the Big Finish.
Yeah, I'm more interested in hearing them. I mean, I've just recently read Lucifer, which was a Big Finish published book written by Paul Darrow, who plays Avon.
Continuing the series, wasn't it?
It's set after Series 4.
There's
enjoyed
an audio book by, I think it's Trevor Baxendale, called Outlaw, and it's written from Travis's viewpoint.
Oh, that sounds
Stephen
interesting.
Greif reads it in the first person as Travis. That's very good because it combines events from Stephen Greif's incarnation and the Brian Croucher one later. For those of us who've seen Series 2, you reinterpret the events of Series 2.
With him.
But, with Stephen Greif, which is a very interesting exercise if you're familiar with the material.
So around the early 90s, the cable and satellite channel UK Gold showed Blake 7.
That's how I first encountered Blake 7, because I used to watch Doctor Who, the Doctor Who Omnibus on UK Gold on Sunday mornings. While waiting for it to start, I'd catch the end of Blake 7, and it looked interesting, but I just never made the effort to get up a bit earlier to watch it. And it wasn't until years later I finally did watch it, and I loved it.
I'm really surprised to hear how popular this show is. When I'm not somebody who's into the sci-fi world, but you still hear of certain franchises, and there are certain things that you know of. Do you know what I mean? There are certain things that you hear people talk about it. It's nerd culture, fan base. Apart from you, never heard anybody externally talk about Blake 7.
It's not as popular as something like Doctor Who.
No, but
it has its cult following.
But there are other things that I've heard of, I feel, that probably are similar in that front, but I've actually heard of them. But this, I've just nothing. If you guys hadn't have talked about it, heard about it, I never would have heard about it in my life.
And see, if we mentioned it in front of Dad, he definitely watched it back in the day.
Yes.
Yes, but younger people wouldn't.
There's a guy on YouTube, an American man. He's discovered it late. He's discovered it, within the last couple of years or something. And I watched it because I was fascinated to get an American person's view on finding it. And he said the PBS station he found it when they were on Series 4. Had no idea what it was. Couldn't understand it from the episodes because it was called Blake's 7, but a lot of things had changed by Series 4, so the title didn't make much sense to him. Or what it was really meant to be about. I used to just dismiss it as this cheap British nonsense. And then a PBS station decided to run it from the beginning. And he said, right, I'm gonna have a go at this now. He watched the first episode. There's a man called Blake in it. Blake's 7. And then by the time he got to sort of 2 or 3 episodes in, he could see what it was. And for someone who's grown up with all the Star Trek stuff, very high quality special effects and the like, he was really struck with it. And he was warning his viewers, it's as cheap as hell, the spaceship is what it is, the guns are what they are, the teleport effect is just some wobbly video effect thing. But the idea of it, the idea of it and the way it's written and the way it's played save it from just being a load of cheap rubbish.
Yeah. It was tricky choosing which episodes to show you because, we did debate it quite a bit. Do we show you the really good episodes? Do we show you key episodes? But we felt in the end to show you the beginning because otherwise you might be totally confused on what on earth is going on.
Yeah, who's Blake? How did we get the Liberator?
But yeah, I do agree with that. It's just,
just going back to say about that resurgence of interest in the 90s, I got caught up in that from the UK Gold Repeats because I couldn't afford to buy all the videos, so that was a lifesaver for me. And I joined the official fan club Horizon, which is still going in some form as an online forum. The fan club, just like the Tripods fandom, the League of Freemen, the fans are dedicated, diehard, although it's a female-dominated fandom. And I don't think that's all down to just Avon. I think...
Or Brian Blessed.
Or Brian Blessed. I think there's just something that appealed. And I think I mentioned this in Tripods cast, is because you've got a small cast, a short run, 4 years, opposed to 2 for Tripods, but you've got this thing that's enclosed. And so the cast, again, are friends with the fan club, to the point where they'll meet up if they see them on tour and play or whatever. I even attended a Blake 7 convention with my friends Andrew and Lisa and Kevin, who produces this podcast.
So speaking of it being a female-dominated fandom, I wonder if that's partly to do with what Jacqueline Pierce said was key to the show, that it's very much focusing on relationships, and she talks about this in The Cult of Blake 7, about how the dialogue is very, bouncing off of each other. There's relationships between those characters. It's more than just simply saying technobabble. And I wonder if that's what appeals to women, is there is these interesting relationships and between characters who don't necessarily get along, or they're attracted in some ways, but also hate each other.
I can get behind that, because that's what I like about the characters. That is that kind of relationships. They are different. They are all got like different ways they communicate with each other. I think I don't know if it's just the fact that it's about relationships or the fact that it's just realistic showing of how people interact with people.
Yeah.
And sometimes sci-fi does kind of negate that. And not just sci-fi, a lot of things negate that. There are a lot of shows where they kind of don't show how realistic people are interacting with people. That was
an issue with people comment on Star Trek The Next Generation, because Gene Roddenberry had this rule of no conflicts between the characters. They've all got to be, happy-clappy getting on with each other.
But that doesn't exist in life.
Yeah.
I suppose the difference between Blake's 7 is... Star Trek was kind of pushing an ideal future, wasn't it? It was where we've solved all our problems and where our problems are now with the aliens. Whereas Blake 7 is really showing people pretty much as they are now. And so it's more relatable to us because they are like us.
Speaking of aliens, I don't know if you've seen enough to notice, but compared to, let's say, a Star Trek universe or a Star Wars universe, Blake 7 has relatively few aliens in it.
Yeah, there's only a few episodes where we actually see them.
There's not many.
I don't feel like I've watched enough to have picked up on that.
It's more the political themes, really. Yeah.
It's much more human-centric universe in Blake 7, so it's all colonies of humans or people who've mutated.
You've got those specially genetically created mutoids that just act as slaves. They're programmed humans.
Sort of cyborgs, aren't they?
Yeah, and they live on blood.
They don't care about what they're told to do.
Oh yeah, they don't have any emotions, do they?
They don't care about who they were or anything.
No.
Because Travis asks one saying, I know who you used to be. Do you want to know? And she's like, boop, boop, boop. No, I don't care. Getting on with the job. So Dani, to sum up, how many Danis out of 5 would you give Blake 7? Based on what you've seen so far, what would you give it?
4.
Oh, that's more than I was expecting.
I'm just taking a breath, folks.
It's quite tense. We're all like thinking, oh, she's going to give it like 2.
I was grabbing my kneecaps, waiting.
I said it at the beginning. I said at the very beginning, don't kill me. I found it slow and I hated it to begin with. That's what it was to begin with. Like we said, from Project Avalon, I started getting into it. I started to get the feel of the show, which I think makes sense because that's how it is. I just think the pacing was too slow for my brain. Like I said, I don't know if it was just an on-the-day thing, because I am very much like that. It can be just on the day for me.
How does it compare with old TV shows of other genres in terms of the pacing? I mean, we're all programmes written in the 70s, late 70s, slow burners. Is this particularly stand out?
Having a clue is going to be my answer on that one.
Yeah, Dan, other than Doctor Who, the odd Doctor Who, she hasn't really seen anything from the 70s
because I watch programmes like, I watch old shows like All Creatures Great and Small, for example, which is a lazy kind of Sunday tea time thing. And it is very slow. They'll show somebody walk across a room to a kettle and make a cup of tea with no dialogue, you know?
I mean, you say that, but there's some shows now where they do that. And I'm not opposed to that kind of thing. I think it was just the fact that I felt nothing was happening. Like, it was like, Blake 7, right, so get on with it then. I think that was my... But again, I don't know if it's just my mood that day.
I was really surprised when you texted me today saying, I've just watched Project Avalon, Deliverance, and I'm halfway through Aurak. I thought, whoa, I thought you were only going to watch Project Avalon and go, yeah, that'll do.
Well, it was Project Avalon that made me kind of go, I like it. I just don't know what it was. Some days I can persevere with slowness and go, I can get past it. Some days I just go, nah, turn it off. I think part of my problem is that it is 70s, and I am biased that I don't particularly like things from the 70s.
Blame our parents.
Yeah, sorry.
Your parents are from the 70s.
So how does it compare? How does it compare with? So how does it compare? Like because the Tripods is very slow paced in series 1, especially. But you enjoyed that, didn't you?
I did. I don't. That's what I mean. I don't know what it was about the slow pacing that made me go. I hated it.
Was it the bleakness of it?
I don't think it's the bleakness because I like bleak things. I like things that are
Equilibrium 1984.
Yeah, I love that kind of thing.
Stuff like that.
Like the Mist. I love the Mist, and I love the Mist ending because it was such a bleak, horrific ending, and people hate that ending. But I loved it.
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing I really enjoy. I just don't really know what it was.
If you were to re-edit it then, what would you do? Would you kind of speed up the process of him being sent to Cygnus Alpha?
I think,
and bring the Liberator in the first episode, perhaps?
Squinch it to 2?
It could be squinched to 2.
When it was first issued on video, rather than releasing individual 50-minute episodes, they released, because I suppose they were testing the market, they released like a 90-minute film of the first 3 or 4 episodes, wasn't it? First 4. Great chunks of each episode missed out, and it was joined up into a film. And I wonder if you watched that version, if you could track it down somewhere, whether you would find that a better watch.
Maybe. Potentially.
It's called The Beginning. That's what they called it. Blake 7, The Beginning.
Yeah,
that was a common thing in like the 80s. They'd just compile TV shows down into like 90-minute videos or TV films like D'Artagnan, Wizard of Oz.
Doctor Who's first ones.
And I'm going to argue the case. Is it because they could? Because that 90 minutes was only the good content, the actual plot content.
Well, some of the episodes definitely.
For a modern audience, they might well have been thinking that.
Yeah.
And then they realised there were plenty of people buying it. Let's put the whole lot out.
That's it, yeah.
Do you think you'd watch more?
I probably would. I don't know. It's not going to be the first thing I go off and do. Give me a few months.
Would you come back and talk to us? If you watched it right to the end, would you come back and give us your verdict?
I would.
Because there's a lot more to it than what you've seen.
And like I said, I really liked the premise of it. I loved the story of it. Because that's what frustrated me that day when we watched the first few episodes. Because the plot and stuff, it was like, well, this is interesting, but you're not showing it in an interesting way. It's how I felt, and I felt very frustrated. Maybe if I watched all of it, I'd probably have different things to say.
Yeah. You can access the whole show on BritBox now.
Or steal them from you.
Yeah, you can. Because we've got them on DVD.
Because we've got them all,
We've got them all.
And watch Blake's Junction 7 afterwards.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be showing you that.
You have to watch that after the final episode.
So in conclusion, Dani, what did you think of Blake 7?
It was slow, but could get more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I like the character. I like the characters.
It's the characters.
The characters are strength for me. Yeah. The strong characters.
Okay.
Interestingly, when I tried showing Blake 7 to my wife Amy, she didn't like it because the characters didn't like each other. And she wasn't interested in watching any more episodes. Like you, I think I showed her up to Time Squad, so she got the introduction. And she didn't like the fact that they argued and didn't get on with each other.
I suppose it's just different people's opinions.
Definitely.
But I'm the annoying person who... if you have an opinion, sometimes I'll just say the opposite just to have an argument with you, even though I agree with what you're saying.
I'll have to watch you.
So I think that just about brings us to the end of this episode of I Don't Do Sci-Fi. Will, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your love of B7 with us.
Thank you for inviting me on.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode. Do let us know what you thought. Our contact details will be at the end of the podcast. Join us next time for I Don't Do Sci-Fi when we're travelling back to 1991 to watch the children's BBC adventure series Dark Season with our guest Amber Isles. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to I Don't Do Sci-Fi. If you'd like to contact us or comment on the show, email us at idon'tdosci-fi@gmail.com, Twitter at I Don't Do Sci-Fi, on Instagram, I Don't Do Sci-Fi, or on Facebook, I Don't Do Sci-Fi. I Don't Do Sci-Fi was presented by John Isles, Dani Ray and Rebecca Ray, and featuring our guest, Will Hadcroft. The theme tune was composed by Steve Johnson, and the podcast was directed and produced by Kevin Hiley.
Like the Magnificent Seven.
I know it's mentioned in, I think it's Project Avon.
Avalon.
Avalon, that's it. Oh, God. Project Avalon. Avon. Let's just call it Project Avon now.
Yeah.
Yes, Project Avalon.
But yeah, there's a bit where I don't know what I was saying anymore. My brain's gone. That train left. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking.
Whatever I was talking about, that.
It pulled up, it clicked, it went.